Hello everyone. My name is Chelsea Conaway, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Human Services Alliance of Greater Prince William. And on this call today, we have our Operations Manager, Reggie Thomas, and our Program Manager, Bonnie Fulford, and we will be talking with you about the ARPA Community Grants Program and everything that you're going to need to know to complete your application and request funding. So this is just an overview of what we're going to cover today, all the background information that you're going to need to have, as well as how you will go about completing your application and submitting a proposal for funding. And then we'll do some questions and answers. So here's a little bit of information about the Alliance. We are a 501c3 organization. We are an association of nonprofits and government agencies and faith-based groups and private families and just all these really neat different types of entities in our community that are serving people that do human services work and have human services interests. And so we were created in 2019. We are the successor of the Human Needs Coalition. And so we are super excited that we can be working in this area. We serve different types of human services providers in Prince William County, Virginia, in the city of Manassas and the city of Manassas Park. For this funding, we are focusing on Prince William County residents, but we do serve the people who serve all of those different groups. Our core funding is provided by a very generous grant from Prince William County government. We are a community partner. We also rely on membership dues. I just want to give you a little bit of background on that because we are a membership organization. Different human services providers and people who care about human services can pay $50 annually if they're an individual or a family, or $100 annually if they're an organization. And then we provide them with some different fun networking experiences and really cool resources and trainings and different things. I'm providing that context because I want to be very explicit in stating that you do not have to be a member of the Alliance to apply for funding. But if you should happen to venture on our website and see that we've got this awesome list of members and you were wondering, what do I have to do to be a member? You can just submit a form, or you can just go ahead and pay your dues. And then that's basically the criteria for membership. It's not any advantage that our members have when accessing this funding, and it's also not a barrier. So we have a wonderful leadership team here at the Alliance, including our board of directors, and they comprise all types of wonderful human services providers from the greater Prince William area. So a little bit about our grant making efforts. We began grant making in 2020, so soon after we were formed, in response to the COVID-19 public health crisis. And so we first started with our Prince William Area Disaster Fund, which is this really cool crowdsourced pot of money where people who are individuals who might want to donate $25 or groups that might want to donate $35,000 could all go ahead and put their resources to make grants out of that money. And once it hits a certain amount, then we put out an RFP and we'll start making grants. I just use the term RFP, that stands for request for proposal. And you're going to hear it a lot. You're going to hear it a lot today. So something else that we started doing after we started our Prince William Disaster Fund is we partnered with Prince William County government to administer $3 million in CARES Act funding. So we've done this before, but this is the largest grant program that we've had to date. A little bit more about ARPA. It was passed in 2021, and it stands for the American Rescue Plan Act. So if you've heard of anything like the Rescue Plan, or it's all talking about the same pot of money. And it's just really focused on COVID-19 recovery. We're going to say that quite a bit throughout today, but it's because we really want to drive the point home that this is not just money for randomness. It's money that is specific to addressing COVID-19 recovery, specific to pandemic recovery. And so earlier this year, the Prince William County Board of Supervisors voted to partner with us to administer $10 million in ARPA funds to you all. So that's why you're here today. So now we're going to get into which groups are actually eligible for funding. They must be a 501c3 nonprofit or a group that has sponsored or a group that has partnered to be fiscally sponsored by a 501c3 nonprofit. Okay, so either you have to be the 501c3 or be partnered with a 501c3. The way the Alliance is set up, we are only able to make grants to other 501c3 nonprofits. And so unfortunately, that means we cannot make a grant to an individual, to a family, to a 501c4, or any for-profit organization. Something else is this particular pot of money can only fund projects that are going to be operating in Prince William County for Prince William County residents. Okay, and we'll get into that a little bit more. You can be headquartered outside of Prince William County. If you have your church or your office or, you know, your whatever other satellite offices around the country, around the world, that is fine. It's not a problem, but this project has to be based in Prince William County to serve Prince William County residents. So you're going to need to be a good steward of your resources. And so we do have ways that we're going to check for that throughout the application process. And so we'll get into that a little bit later, as well as being responsive in terms of reporting. So here's what we look for in grant partners. All of these wonderful qualities. You're going to have to be able to, you know, complete your application. You're going to have to be able to self-assess and screen to see if your project might be eligible. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. But based on the information that we're going to be providing you today, as well as the information that we're going to be providing you in the actual RFP, if you think that your project does not qualify, it might be because it doesn't. If it doesn't, that's okay, because there are other community resources that will probably be available to help you. If you're not sure and you're kind of on the fence, then go ahead and let us know, and then we can talk about it and see if it qualifies and if you would be eligible to submit a project proposal. But these are all wonderful things that we're looking for, that you be interested in complying with the law as it pertains to administering this funding and helping to make sure that reports are completed accurately to the best of your ability, all of this good stuff, as well as that you are in good standing with the state of Virginia. So this is what you can expect from us. We're going to do our very best as an Alliance team to make sure that you all are going to be adequately resourced to access this funding, to submit your proposals, that you're going to know everything as it pertains to eligibility requirements. Once you all have the funding, those of you that will be funded, we want to make sure that you are well versed on what the stipulations are as it pertains to compliance and reporting. And so we're going to do our very best to provide you with that technical assistance and support all the way throughout this process. Okay, important dates and deadlines. We are in this first period of a very important time right now, which is that we're doing our community engagement and outreach. So at this point, we're really trying to just make sure that everybody knows that this funding opportunity is available and that we are addressing questions that you all might have as you prepare to submit your proposals for funding. And we're going to be doing this throughout tomorrow, because on Friday of this week, the application portal will open up. And so people will actually start to create their profiles and be able to submit their funding proposals and start drafting them within that portal. You have until 11:59 p.m. on March 13th to submit your project proposal. We can't accept it after that, because as you see, we start doing all of the other things that we have to do with that proposal. So we've got to have it by the 13th. You've got just under a month to get it in. All throughout that time period, if you have questions about how to submit the proposals, then we'll be there to help you with that in terms of answering any technical questions that you have. Between March 14th and March 27th, we have a committee of volunteers that will be reviewing the grant proposals, and they will score them and rank them, and then let us know which projects they think are aligned with what this program is seeking to do, and then we will fund them. but we don't fund them right away. So if you notice, on March 28th was when we will make those announcements to you all, and we'll reach out to you and notify you that you are advancing throughout the process. When we notify you, you will be asked to attend this training on March 30th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. On March 30th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., there is a mandatory reporting training. With these ARPA dollars, they are very different than CARES grant money that we had. And I know many of you all who are on this call might have been able to access funding that we had when we did our CARES community grant program. This is a very different pot of money. There are much more stringent reporting requirements and compliance requirements. And with that being the case, we want to make sure that you all are adequately trained so that you will understand fully what you're going to have to report on, what information you're going to have to collect from your program participants, what you're going to have to receipt and document, and what you're going to have to prove as you're going through the execution of your program and of your project. So with that being the case, we have placed this reporting training before we will officially extend an offer to partner with you all. Because if you, I don't know what, all my alarms are going off. There's something coming up, I guess, soon. But so as we are going through this training, if you find that, oh, maybe we don't quite have the capacity to do this the way it needs to be done, or maybe this is more information than we feel our program participants will be willing to provide, whatever the case might be, it gives you the opportunity to know that upfront before you sign your letter of certification. Once you sign your letter of certification, which we will be extending out pretty much as soon as that training is over, to those of you that say that you're willing to agree and proceed, you will be held accountable for the outcomes that you said that you could deliver. And then it will trigger that we'll have to start contacting you all about reporting your outcomes and your activities and submitting receipts, all that good stuff. One of the things at the time that you submit your certification letter that you will also have is your check. So we will disperse your first payment once you submit that certification letter. So we try to give you all the information you're going to need beforehand. We don't want anyone to be caught off guard. Okay. All right. So once we get back those certification letters by April 4th, we will start dispersing those funds to our grant partners. And at April 8th, actually, let me move this little Zoom menu out of the way. On April 8th at 10 a.m., we will begin our promotion of the projects to the public. And we'll do that with a virtual partner showcase so that people can learn about your projects and how awesome they are. A quick note about our review process. I mentioned earlier that we have volunteers that make up the review panel for these proposals. Those volunteers are sourced from the community. We have a call open. So if any of you all, even as you're going through this training, say, you know what, our organization doesn't need to apply for funding, but I'd still like to be involved. Why don't we serve as volunteers? You can go on our social media, on our website, on the Volunteer Prince William website, and you can actually volunteer and sign up to serve as a reviewer on that panel if you're interested in doing that. One of the things that we require our reviewers to do before we even get the first proposal in is they have to disclose any organizations that they are affiliated with. So if they work for an organization, if they worship at a church, if they have a spouse who maybe sits on a board of a nonprofit, we ask them to disclose that information. And then we ask them again once we actually have a list of all of the groups that have submitted proposals. We give them another chance in case it'll trigger something in their memory that they may have not remembered. So we give them that opportunity at the point where they identify that there might be a conflict. They are not permitted to review any of the proposals. Okay, and so with that being the case, we just want to let you know that that's how that works now. That's how it works up front now. Something else that we want to make a note of is that that also applies for our board members. So I stated earlier that we have wonderful board members who represent human services groups. And so if they they have absolutely no idea what's going on as it pertains to which groups are going to be submitting proposals. They don't get to review the proposals. They don't get to weigh in or approve any of the decisions that are made. It's just going to be between that grant review committee and then us, once they tell us who they want to fund, and then we reach back out to you all to get your certifications and to work out those details. All right, so that's the quick note about that. So here's a little bit more in terms of important dates and deadlines. Outcome and activity reports are due on the 10th of each month. That's highlighted and bolded in red because it's super important and it is not a flexible deadline. It is something where we have to have those reports in because we report to the county, they report to the state, and the state reports to the federal government. And it's really important that we track how that spending is going, how those outcomes are being reached, and how these projects are performing, because if we need to reallocate or redistribute funds, we're going to need to know that in real time. So we do require reporting on the 10th of each month. And we will go over that in the reporting training of what that will look like. It's an online tool. It shouldn't be very complex, but we will make sure that you have no questions about it by the time we're done with that training. With this funding, it needs to be expended or obligated by August 31st of 2024. The program calendar that we have at the Alliance is that we will finish all of our ARPA spending by the end of 2024, by December. But because we're going to have so many different subgrantees, so many of you all who are going to be having disbursements out there and you're going to be working on your projects, what we need to do is have a very clear picture by August of how much money we have left unspent or unobligated. That money, if you have not spent it by August 31st, you've got through the month of September to get it to us, and we will reassign it to another one of the projects that maybe still has a wait list or might still need some funding or might still have people that could be served. And then they have until the end of September, because we have until the end of October to get it to the county. So all of that is to say, like I said, it's not ever just, oh, well, you know, Chelsea and Reggie and Bonnie said they need this thing. We don't just ask for these dates just for kicks and giggles. It's because there are people that we report to who are going to make decisions about other aspects related to ARPA funding based on what it is that we report to them. So if there are any funds that are unspent by August 31st, they've got to be returned to the Alliance so that we can push them out and still try to spend them before the end of the year. If you all are listening to this presentation, you're going through this presentation and you're like, okay, well, this sounds good. Everything they're saying sounds great. Not sure if I'm ready to submit a proposal for funding yet. That's okay, because we're going to have another RFP round this time next year. So in early 2023, you can submit. We're going to open up the portal to receive funding again, funding proposals again. So you can always just go ahead and submit for your project at that time. With that being the case, if you notice, it says funding for new projects. With your organization, what you're going to propose in the next couple of weeks, those of you all who are deciding that you want to submit a proposal for the 2022 round, you cannot submit more than one project proposal. So you can have a multidisciplinary project proposal. You can say, oh, I want to do part of my program budget for food and some of it for housing and some of it for mental health care, and that's fine. But it all has to be in one project proposal. Next year, if you say, you know what, we actually came up with another idea. We want to do something for childcare, then you can submit that as a new project. Okay, so I hope that that's clear, and we'll get into that a little bit more too. All right, so at this time, I'm going to introduce our program manager, Bonnie Fulford, and Bonnie's going to talk to us about everything you really care about, which is how this money can be used. So take it away, Bonnie.
All right, thanks, Chelsea. Hi, everybody. Yes, how can I spend the money? All right, as Chelsea mentioned, this is not CARES. This is very different. And with CARES, and we're doing direct assistance and handing out money to people. With this, there's going to be more of a focus on navigation and application support for rent and mortgage assistance. Okay, but you can help with utilities, childcare, emergency shelter, things like an extended stay hotel, employment support, and that could be helping someone find a job and maybe helping them with the cost of a uniform to do that job. Mental and behavioral health assistance to include preventative medicine, administrative funds to support hunger relief programs. Can't buy food with this grant, at least not through the Alliance. Our focus is going to be on that administrative support. If you're having to collect information and schedule the volunteers and figure out the logistics, we can provide funding for administrative support. And administrative support, not just for hunger relief programs. This grant includes dollars for administrative support to your other programs as well. Okay, next. Okay, so organizations with direct service projects can use up to 10% of the awarded funding amount to cover the grant partner's administrative costs. This is kind of a two-pronged thing. So as long as it's related to delivering the project's services, such as supplies, staffing costs are included, advertising, etc., you can use up to 10% of your awarded amount for that. However, organizations that will need to hire new staff to execute the ARPA project and whose job duties are exclusively to execute the project can include 100% of the cost of that staff person in their project budget. You have to write this into your budget. You cannot task this staff person with completing any other work for your organization that is unrelated to ARPA and pay them with ARPA funds. Now, that's not to say if you don't have another funding source and you have this person 50% ARPA and 50% something else, but you have to make that differentiation. And grant partners can propose to do a new project. And we actually love innovation and new projects, but you have to have some experience working in the proposed project's field or partner with a subject matter expert or another organization. We love partnerships. We love new ideas, but this is not seed money. So if you have a great idea for a new project, but you've never done it before, it's not something that your organization is familiar with, maybe kind of pull that together over the next year, and then you could apply for next year's funding once you sort of get that together. Any financial assistance provided must be paid directly to a third-party vendor on the program participant's behalf. Cash is not to be given to the individual seeking help. I'll use that example of helping someone with employment, and you're not going to give them $300 to go buy steel-toed boots and a uniform. You will pay that directly to the vendor. All right, what are the grant award amounts? We'll get into that. There's a kind of hierarchy here. So the Alliance will make grants in the amount of $50,000 to $300,000, but we're also going to set aside $100,000 in each funding round. So the one that's now and the one that's next year, to make micro grants for groups that need $10,000 to $25,000. You don't need the whole enchilada, and you wouldn't be able to spend all that money. So you'll have the opportunity to write your proposal for between $10,000 and $25,000. The Alliance will award over $6 million in the first funding round, the one we're going into now, and just over $3.3 million in next year's round. The Alliance, I went back to the other. Okay, so we've got the $50,000 to $300,000 category, and then we've got the micro grant. I just wanted to clarify that. And the Alliance is going to use up to $550,000 to administer the grant program through the end of 2024. Any funds that are not used by the Alliance will be distributed amongst existing grant partners. So who can grant partners serve with the ARPA funds? All right, hold on to your hats, kids. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. Okay, they must be Prince William County residents. They must be income eligible at or below 300% of the 2022 federal poverty guide, and we actually have that on an upcoming slide. They must be able to prove a negative economic impact occurred as a result of the COVID-19 public health pandemic or its corresponding shutdowns. I can't emphasize that enough. Yes, we have money, but no, you can't have it unless it's related to COVID. So examples of that would be loss of income, reduced income, increased childcare expenses, increased medical expenses, increased rent or mortgage payments. And please note the eligibility factors must be able to be documented. Now, a self-declaration of income is acceptable, but you have to document that. And we do have forms that we can share with you that you can use. Now, the forms are for you as the organization to fill out and keep on your clients. So here's that federal poverty guideline that I mentioned, the household, and this is by per year and per month. So the family size and the 300% of the poverty level, so at or below. And we'll have, actually the whole slide deck will be available for you, but I'll probably put this one in. We're going to have not only a frequently asked questions page, but a resource page, and we can include this for you there. A note on income eligibility. Projects serving Prince William County residents who live in the qualified census tracts on the next slide are highlighted in red, are not required to provide proof of income eligibility, only proof of COVID-19 impact. So we'll look at those areas on this slide, and you can see there's not a lot of areas in red on this slide in those qualified census tracts. But if you are operating in those areas, and I know this map is teeny tiny, and we are going to have it much bigger for you to be able to access it so that you can actually see what's going on there. I have to move my Zoom. I have to move all you people over so I can look at this. So the qualified census tracts are a method used by the U.S. Treasury to define underserved and disproportionately impacted communities. Defined by federal government as a community where at least half of the households have lower income than most of the surrounding region. So that's what that QCT is. So on the next slide, we've got more information about household eligibility. Projects that are providing hunger assistance services to Prince William County residents who live in the zip codes on the next slide that are highlighted in red have been designated as living in an area with high food insecurity. As a result, these residents are not required to provide proof of income eligibility or proof of COVID-19 impact. So we'll see that those areas on the next slide. Now it's a little bit bigger. There's more areas that are covered here. And again, we will have this map available, but you can kind of see the areas. And then we'll talk about zip codes in a little bit because 20110 and 20111 get a little bit tricky. How can a group apply for funding? This is the fun part, at least I think it's the fun part. You can visit our website, alliancegpw.org/ARPA ARPA gets its own page on our website to create a profile on our online grant proposal platform. Complete your grant proposal by 11:59. That's p.m. on March 13th, so almost midnight. We will contact you on March 28th to let you know if your program has been selected for funding. And this is what the grant application is going to look like. If you have ever applied for a grant through the Potomac Health Foundation or the Community Foundation of Northern Virginia, you're going to be familiar with this platform because it's the same platform. If you are not familiar, or even if you are, but you'd like to join us on February 22nd from 10 to 11, we're going to have a tutorial. Now, there are tutorials available on the site when you log in and create your profile. However, our job is to help you be successful. So we're going to have this training. So if there's any questions or anything that we need to sort out for you, please join us on Zoom, February 22nd. If you have accessibility issues, I didn't drink enough coffee today. If you have accessibility issues, as far as technology or accessing the internet, partner with groups that have knowledge or access to technology to complete your project proposal if your group is not able to do that. Or we're going to have printed copies of the proposal application and the RFP available at our Centrifuge office. The Centrifuge office is located in beautiful downtown Manassas. You ought to come by at 9073 Center Street. And the hours there are 9 to 5 Monday through Thursday. However, on Friday, it's 9 to 3, and the office is closed on weekends. Now, we are not always in the office, but there's a very kind person that sits at the desk and they know everything about everything. And we will make sure that they have copies of the RFP and the proposal applications. And all you have to do is go in and ask. Oh, Reggie, I was getting ready to do your part. Sorry.
Reggie, you're on mute. I don't know if anybody else, you're on mute for anybody else.
It's
You're on
so
mute for
funny.
me.
Thank you, because I would have kept talking for like minutes and not known it and think I was doing a great job. And it's funny because I can't see everyone's faces because I kind of took it off the screen. So if you were waving saying I was on mute, I didn't see it. So thank you, Chelsea, telling me that. Chelsea, I'm not on mute anymore, am I?
You're
Yes?
good, Reggie. I
Okay.
forgot you couldn't see me. I gave you a thumbs up because I need it myself.
All right, thank
You're good to go.
Yeah, I have the faces turned off during this part. Okay, so what we are going to talk about is we are going to talk about what the grant proposal committee looks in a successful application. So everybody, thank you for being here. Actually, it's really cool. I've gone through a lot of the faces and the participants, and I see so many people who we did work with during CARES, and also people who have done an amazing job, even on the last grant. So it is really great to see all of you again. And thank you for being here, and definitely look forward to all your applications that are to come. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is just what the proposal committee looks for when they get these applications. First of all, what they need is they need the organization's info, their name, location, contact details, EIN. You can put your website, your mission. Basically, we're just trying to make sure that you are an existing program. Please include anything if you have social media that you use, just something that can introduce who you are. And everybody knows it's always great to make a great introduction. So this is just when you're introducing who you are. Then also what we need is we need the contact person. Now, we do understand that some of your organizations are really large. We do get that people may be writing the grants who aren't necessarily the person who is going to be administering the grant. So we do ask for that contact person who is going to be the main liaison between us and between your organization when it comes to filling out this grant. So we do want a contact person. We wanted to include their name, their phone, their address, email, title, and an alternate contact person as well if we were not able to reach that person. When you do the application, all these things will be listed, so don't think you have to memorize all of this. But that is one of the things we're going to ask for. The next thing we are going to ask for is amount requested with a program budget. So of course, we are going to need to know the amount you requested, but we are going to need a budget. I'm one of the people that I love numbers, and for some reason, making a budget makes me excited. I know for some reason it might not make you excited, but we still need it. The reason why we want a program budget is just to see really what you plan on doing. Like Chelsea said before, this isn't necessarily something that's meant basically as new seed money. Like if you don't have a program together in place or an idea of what your budget is going to be, then like she said, it might be good to get your program started for a year and apply in that next go round. But a program budget is very important. Really what our review committee, what they are doing is they are trying to, and all your organizations are great, but what our goal is we do not want to give back a cent of this money back to the county. The great thing about the CARES Act is we got $3 million and we gave out $3 million to the county and did not have to get to our county, not the county, but we didn't have to give anything back to county government. So when we're asking for these things, even a program budget, basically it's with the goal in mind of we are trying to find people who are going to be successful in spending the money so that we can get it out to our community and not have to give it back to the government. So please have a program budget. Then the next thing that we're going to ask is how your organization is currently responding to the needs of Prince William County residents. We just want to know what you're doing right now. Like what are you currently doing? If you're a daycare, you're doing childcare for people. If you're a food pantry, you're feeding people. So we want to know what you're out there doing right now, which kind of gets into that whole, when we did say that, we're looking for organizations that have already started, are already present in the community. Another thing is any collaborative partnerships or innovative measures you will use to execute the program. Bonnie said this earlier, but we love innovation. We love new ideas. Reason being, because a lot of times new ideas mean that unmet needs are getting met. There's a direct correlation a lot of times between those two things. So we do want to hear the collaborative partnerships you have and the unique ideas that you have that you're going to use to execute the program. So if you're doing something new, don't get discouraged. A new program isn't a new idea. So if you have a new idea, by all means, please include that in your proposal because we love new ideas, each one that y'all have. We would need to know how results will be measured. Please tell us if you're doing a daycare, how many children you're going to be taking care of. If it's feeding people, how many people you expect to feed, or how many pounds of food you expect to give out. However you measure your results will be great. Because like Chelsea said, you report this stuff you will be asked to report all this, but you report it to us so that we can report it to the county. So we will need measurables in terms of your success. The next thing, that the organization requesting funding has demonstrated engagement with the community. That's kind of saying what we've already said before, but we want to see that you're already out there in the community. So we want to see that you're already engaged. That the project addresses an unmet need related to COVID-19 public health emergencies, recovery efforts. So we want to see that your project does help unmet needs for people. Won't get much more into that, but next one, that the specific uses of funds are clear and reasonable. Okay, so we're going to talk about clear and reasonable. So with a specific use of funds, and this is why it all goes into tying up a budget. When it comes to requesting money and whatever budget you may have or whatever plan that you may have, we ask for you to use sober judgment, even in the amount that you ask that you are requesting from us. So be clear with your budget, but also be reasonable with how much you are asking for. For instance, if I love using daycare just because it's easy for me, but If I have a daycare that the max that I've ever taken care of is 10 children, and that's going to cost $20,000, or I'm going to need $20,000 for that. I know that it's a lot more, just bear with me, but it's not reasonable to then therefore say, okay, we've had 5 children, we're going to have 100 children, and now I need the max award. So it's more, make sure that with your budget and what you're asking for, and even with what you've done in the past, that it is reasonable and that you are very clear. Clear is going to come with the budget as well. So just make sure it's clear and reasonable with the specific use of the funds. Next one, that the organization requesting funding has the volunteers and staff to execute the project as proposed. That all goes into, and I know I've said it 3 times, but I'm going to keep saying it. You should have your team already in place. Of course, with these projects, there might be people that you need to bring on, but the bulk of your organization does need to be there. So even the volunteers and staff and the people that you're going to need to execute the project, it is great, even when you're putting in a proposal, that we will have this many staff members working on it, or we already have this executive director who is going to be doing this. So talk about how your volunteers and staff are going to execute how your project that is proposed. Next one, that the proposed outcomes and objectives are clear, measurable, and attainable. We talked about that with being clear and reasonable. Make sure your outcomes and objectives are measurable and attainable so you can measure your outcomes, but also there's a great, forgot the word, but there's a great probability, that's funny, there's a great probability that you are going to attain them. Next one, how the project will produce equitable outcomes in a service delivery. So we're all about equitable outcomes. We want outcomes that are going to help people get to an equitable state in this county. So please just say how your project is going to produce those equitable outcomes that we're looking for in a service delivery. We'll go to the next. So next one, I know what everyone's interested in is how will these funds be dispersed? Okay, so the grants will be dispersed incrementally. What we are not going to do is we are not going to say you are a $300,000 award winner. We are not going to give the award of $300,000 immediately. What we will do is we are going to, once you sign the certification letter, you've been awarded. So let's go through the timeline. You've been awarded. Yes, great. So you're going to come to our grant training. And then after the grant training, we're going to meet with you to sign your certification letter. When you sign that letter, you will get your first payment. It will be an increment of what your grant award is. After you have exhausted all that money that we gave you in the first increment, you can invoice us for increments after that up to what your max award was. Now, I know some of you have worked with us before and you're thinking, well, I hope I get the money quick if I invoice the Alliance. We are making a commitment that when you invoice us, you should have the money that you requested in 3 business days. So that was something that when we did we had a great time of talking to all our partners from CARES, and we said, what can we do better? This was one of them. When y'all request money, we heard you, we are gonna get it to you. So, so please know we are gonna do it in increments. And when you request it, you will get the money immediately. 3 business days, pretty immediately. All right, so grant payments will be made ACH, direct deposit. And also, if the grant partner requires funds be dispersed by a check, we ask for you to come and pick that check from the Centerview's office that we have. The reason why we're changing this up is last time we did send checks through the mail and we also hand delivered. But the reason why we are not sending checks through the mail right now is there is a lot of fraud that is going on with check fraud, especially when it comes to not-for-profits in the area. There's a lot of money that has gone to not-for-profits due to CARES Act, due to ARPA funding. And we find just to be more secure with the money that we got is we do either want to do an ACH direct deposit for you or come and pick up the check from the office and we can arrange that with you. Very easy to be there whatever time is convenient for you, but we are not sending checks through the mail this time. Let's go to the next one. So grant reporting requirements. So these requirements, and Chelsea and Bonnie have already talked about this, is we will have reporting time periods for you to report to us how you, basically what you're doing and spending the money. These reports will be easy to fill out. We will have it on a platform online that you'll be able to fill everything out and put everything in. So do know we are going to make this process easy for you. I know that as we were looking at maps and talking about what you can and cannot spend it on, and then income levels, we are going to go over all of that on March 30th. And then at that time, we're going to roll out how you're supposed to be reporting it. So everybody don't get overwhelmed. We will make it easy for you. We're not trying to overcomplicate it. But just that meeting March 30th is going to be very important. And we're going to talk about reporting these things. So some of the reporting requirements is going to be the number of individuals served. We need to know the number of people or the number of people inside of a family. So that's pretty self-explanatory. The population that benefited from the project. Now, one thing that we are really trying to do with this project is we are trying to hit every demographic. We're trying to hit every ethnic group. We're trying to hit every sex. We're trying to hit everything. So the reason why we're asking about the population that benefited are whether they're male or female, we're asking all this because we have a commitment that we are trying to help everyone out with the money that we receive from the county. And the county is very committed to that as well. So we asked for that information. How funds were used to address COVID-19 recovery needs. So we need to know how the funds were used. You paid for childcare, you did a food pantry, you did mental health, you helped for someone's mental health therapy. So yeah, just whatever you're doing. How services were delivered. That's pretty easy. How the project was promoted to the intended audience. Stop there for a second. We want to know how you're promoting your projects, because one thing that we're going to do is we are going to promote also for you. Now, one thing that we did very different from last time is we have hired 2 full-time staff members. We've already hired one and we're in the process of hiring another. Bonnie is amazing. Her job is going to be to eat, breathe, love, and promote and train. So what we would love for you to do is report to us how you are promoting your project to an intended audience, because as the Alliance, we want to promote you as well. If you do something great, we want to highlight it, whether it's on our website, Facebook, Instagram, all those, we want to highlight what you're doing. So we do ask for you to share your promotions with us so we can highlight you, because y'all are doing great work and we want the county to be able to see it and the community. Collaborative partnerships that may have been utilized. We want to know who you're partnering up with. So collaborative partnerships, like we talked before, if you are a business, you can partner with a 501c3 to possibly do a project, but that 501c3 is the person who is receiving the funding and manning the projects. Any media releases, photographs, and published material about the grant money and work it made possible. So this goes into promoting you, releases, photograph, public material. We want to share all that. We want to flood the community with everything that y'all are doing, because y'all are doing great work. We want any other notable outcomes. We need the amount of funds spent. We need the receipts from the purchases. We will have a way for y'all to upload those receipts in very easily. We need individual household assistance forms with supporting documents. So we do need whatever forms, even when it comes to means testing, whether it's people are self-attesting to their income or whether you have to collect a W-2 or an unemployment form or social security form. Those are things that are supporting documents that we will make available for you to download into the platform that we use. If you have questions about that, don't worry about that right now. On March 30th, we are going to go over all that in very nice detail, and we'll get all your questions answered about reporting that then. Also, grant partners may be asked to provide informal periodic updates on funds expended, numbers served, and immediate impact upon request. So that basically means that we may come to you, not on a periodic update, but we may have a question for you. So you just need to be able to answer our questions if there is something that we need to talk to you about. Just know that the dates that we have and that we're going to go over with all of our grant partners of reporting dates, these dates 100% must be met. This is a little bit of change from the last one. We asked last time that, hey, these are the dates that we need your reports, and we were very flexible just due to the timeline we were on. But these dates on that we require the reports of how spending is going have to be met. So that is something that I want to make very just very clear, that we have to get those reports on time, because we have people, like Chelsea said, we have to report to the county how spending is going as well. So please, please, please submit those reports on time. Information collected from individual households will not be shared with any other government agency and will not impact immigration or public benefit status in any way. Okay, very important. We want y'all to feel comfortable knowing that every piece of information that we get does not go to a governmental agency. It does not go to immigration. It is not going to be something that is going to affect someone's unemployment, Social Security, or whatever that may be. We are not sharing any information out to any other agency. So please know that we take that very seriously. I'm just protecting your clients and your organization's information. Let's go to the next slide. So one of the big things that we did different with this program is that we are going to have 2 full-time staff members working on nothing but this program. So these staff members are going to be here for you. Bonnie is amazing. She's nice. I've loved her for the time that we've had her on, and I'm so excited to be working with her. And also we'll have somebody else on as well, but they are going to be doing an amazing job with providing daily oversight and of activities. They're going to be providing you technical assistance for reporting. So if you have a question, this is who to get in touch with. She's going to be there to answer your questions, and she's very good at answering questions and explaining things. They're going to be providing real-time compliance and monitoring. So we're going to be keeping up with everything in real time, how organizations are doing, and we're going to be reporting that in real time to the county as they ask for their periodic updates. They're going to also provide capacity building training. This was one of the things that was a big topic when we talked to all of our grant partners with CARES. We do not intend on giving you the money and then saying, hey, go have fun. Don't ask me any questions and you're off on your own. No, we want to do what we can to help you. So as needs arise where we think there's a training need in terms of how to do this, or maybe it's something even with bookkeeping that you may have when it comes to tracking time of working on ARPA, but also your regular operating activities. We will constantly, as things go on, provide you training. So we want you to know that we are here for you throughout the whole process. And if something keeps reoccurring over and over again, we hear the question 4 times, it means that probably everybody else has that question. So we might do a training on it. So we are here to do capacity building and training and helping throughout this whole process. They will also be the connection between y'all. So we will use them as connection to other community resources that will help grant partners best serve their program participants. So one thing is that we realize that even as a community, we're better as a whole. So for instance, your organization may get grant funding and you may be providing childcare, but somebody also needs, like, that you're working with, or a child that you're working with, or their parents may need help with mental health costs or counseling. Another organization could be doing that. So what we're going to do is we really do want to connect that. So if at any time you're like, hey, I'm doing my program and I have this client or this person that I'm working with who needs this help, do you have any other organization who does that? We would love to connect them with that organization. So we are here to be the connection between all, just us as a whole, everybody who is working on this grant as a whole. So it's great that we have so many partners on here, and I love looking at the list, and I love seeing what each and every one of you do. but it's amazing that we're so diversified in what we do. And with that diversity, we can meet a lot of needs for a lot of people. So working as a whole. Let's keep going. The next slide. So this is my favorite part. We would love for you to like us on Twitter, Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We are going to be highlighting a lot of what we do or a lot of what y'all are doing through those platforms. So please use those, keep up with each other and keep up with us as well on those platforms. Also, like we said, submit any questions that you may have to grants@alliancegpw.org. That's going to be very important because like Bonnie said, we are going to make a resource page that y'all can come and look at each other's questions, because we assume if one person has the question, more people have it. So we will post those and then our answers to those questions. So if you have a question at some point, it might be good to even look at that page before sending an email because somebody else could have asked it. So even today, we are going to answer some questions. There's about 60 people on the call. So the likelihood that we get to every question might be slim, but what we would love for you to do is that if we're not able to answer it, please email that email and we will answer it. Bonnie is checking that every day. That's the reason why we have additional staffing, because your emails will not go unanswered. If for some reason it has been 2 or 3 days and your email has not been answered, please give us a call at that point and say, hey, I sent you an email, and then we'll see what happened, but we'll answer your questions. So please use that. Also, you can visit www.alliancegpw.org/ARPA to get any updates or any news about this fund, about what is going on with our ARPA funding. But guys, thank y'all so much for being such great partners. We look forward to all the applications that are going to come in. So at this point, going to the next slide, we are going to have a question and answer segment. So I am going to give it over to Chelsea. Like I said, please put your questions in the chat box. We are going to try to get to everyone's questions, but if somehow we are not able to get to yours, please just copy and paste or send it to that email. Also, we are going to take the questions that we did not answer. We can copy those and post those as well and answer those. So just in case we are not able to answer them verbally, we will get to them. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Reggie. And thank you everyone for hanging in there with us through all of the juicy details of the program. Now we get to the most exciting parts, which are the burning questions that you want answers to. So the first question that we have is, are Manassas Park and or City of Manassas residents included as Prince William County residents? So the answer for that is if their street address, the place where they live, is designated as a Prince William County home, a Prince William County residence, then they may qualify for services. So a perfect example of that is Bonnie lives in an address that has Manassas Park. I live with my address being Manassas, and we are both Prince William County residents. We have lookup tools that can help you to determine where that physical property where your program participants lives is located, so you don't have to just guess. It can be really tricky if you live around this area sometimes to figure out, am I in Manassas? Am I in the city? Am I in the county? What's going on here? So we don't expect you all to be able to eyeball it. We understand that as people who kind of live in that weird gray area ourselves. So unfortunately, we cannot serve any residents of we cannot serve any residents of the City of Manassas or the City of Manassas Park. They have their own ARPA funding allocations, and they have other plans for as to how they're going to distribute that amongst their residents. And so with this pot of money, these ARPA funds are exclusive for Prince William County residents. So we will give you the tools to look that up. Something else, a question is, are we able to receive samples of grant proposals that have been accepted in the past and receive funding? And the answer for that is no, just because we have a policy that we do not publicize proposals that people give to us. And then also that money, all of the proposals that we've gotten before were either for the Prince William Area Disaster Fund or for CARES Act. And those would be very different projects in terms of what they're able to do and what you all would need to propose to do, just because this is a recovery program and that was a relief program. That program addressed more immediate needs. It didn't have the same stipulations as to who could be served financially or in terms of what their emergent need was as it pertained to the pandemic. So they were proposing totally different projects than you all will be proposing. The other thing that I want to make sure that you know is that we will have resources to tell you just different little tips about how to complete the application, things that provide more explanation about the application's prompts. If the application, there are different points where it'll reference something, we'll have that reference for you. So you won't be just totally in the dark, but we have tried to make the proposal submission form as straightforward as possible. And then where we think that maybe there could be some additional detail provided, we will be providing that additional detail. And the next question, can you give us an idea of what the reporting will look like, or do we have to wait until the session on the 30th? You actually will be able to know on the end of this week on the 18th, specifically what all we will be collecting in terms of that, because it is included in the RFP. But even if you just download these slides, it is what Reggie went over when he was saying, you know, how many people did you serve? How much money did you spend? What did you do? How did you conduct your outreach and public engagement to produce equitable outcomes? Those are the questions. There really aren't a whole lot more in terms of that type that we're going to be collecting that type of information. We do collect household information as well, as we said, and that includes questions about, you know, is anybody in the family a veteran? Does anybody have a disability? Are there any children or seniors in the household? What are all of the different ethnic groups that live in a household? What is the income source? What was the emergency? What's the supporting document that's going to just help to confirm that there was a need as to COVID-19 and what that reason is that they're coming to you. All of that stuff is what's on those forms. And so when you do the reporting, you're just answering those questions. So it is everything that's been completed that will need to be completed in that reporting is listed in this PowerPoint and will be listed on that RFP that's getting published on Friday in greater detail. Okay, another question. The next one. The session that we're doing on the 30th is going to provide a lot more detail, but we didn't want to overwhelm you all with details now because you don't quite need it yet. Okay, is there anything that would eliminate undocumented residents from receiving help, not from our funding? We do not require that the person receiving assistance have documentation. It doesn't matter to us. They just have to be income eligible and live in the designated area, which is Prince William County, and have been impacted by COVID-19. So long as they can document those things, that's fine. Okay, let's see. Right. Someone saying that they want to do grant reviews. Yay, thank you, volunteer. Okay, let's see. Someone says, I want to make sure that we can still serve people in other jurisdictions as long as we can show that the funding goes to help Prince William County residents. So, great question. Whatever programs you have currently, and however you are funding those programs, those things can continue to operate as they have been operating. With this ARPA money, the individuals that will benefit from this ARPA money have to be Prince William County residents. So let's say you have a childcare program. We're going to use a childcare example. And you've got 20 kids in your classroom. And 5 of those children are residents of the city of Manassas. And maybe 5 are residents of Manassas Park. Whatever you might have been using this ARPA money to do, whether that's to get them some additional support as it relates to relieving their households that were impacted by COVID-19 or subsidizing their costs of childcare, that can only be applied to the children whose families live in Prince William County. You cannot serve even the entire class, because what it has to be is when those families sit down with you all to complete that household assistance form, they can only report for their household. They can't talk about what the other kids in the class are doing or what their neighbors are doing, only what's going on with their household, okay? And as a result, you can't apply your ARPA funds to cover everybody that might be in your program if those people are not Prince William County residents. I hope that answers your question. All right, next question. What about infrastructure for hunger relief programs like refrigerators? That is fine so long as you will be using your refrigerator to keep food cold for people who live in Prince William County. That's fine. And if you happen to be serving people in those specific zip codes that Bonnie had a list up earlier in the presentation, then you don't have to record any other information about the households that are coming to get service. But yeah, that's fine. That would be an administrative cost. The refrigerator would be an administrative cost. Okay, someone said they couldn't see you, Bonnie, when you were talking. Oh, okay, hope they were able to see you by the end. Let's see. Are children and the elderly considered eligible without having to demonstrate income eligibility? No, they're eligible if their household is income eligible and if they're Prince William County residents who have been impacted by COVID-19, but they're not ineligible just because they're children or because they're elderly. Hope that answers your question. But anyone who's coming to you, unless they meet those specific stipulations that we said that pertain to geographic area, they have to be able to prove their eligibility. Can you please repeat when the funds must be spent by? You have to spend or obligate your funds by August 2024. That is your first spending deadline. If you reach that deadline and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to spend this money, we have to take it back. So we got to take it back and redistribute it to other groups, because we have to get this money pushed out into the community and spent by December, because we have to be, anything that's left over by then goes back to the county. And as Reggie said, we don't intend to give any money back to the county because there is so much need in this community that is not an option for us. Is a financial audit required? We do not have audits done because we are not required by law. So they say that they have 990 forms, but no audits. We do ask for our applicants, the people who are going to be submitting proposals, to provide a professionally prepared financial statement. And Reggie, if you could kind of detail a little bit more about what that is, I would greatly appreciate it.
And so essentially what you don't need is, like Chelsea said, you don't need to audit it on financial statements by a CPA or a firm. But when it comes to prepared financial statements, essentially what it is using, there's a lot of different programs that you can use to prepare your financial statements. So basically it's having a balance sheet, a profit and loss. If you do have a tax return that you've done for your not-for-profit, it would be good if, of course, it needs to match whatever your balance sheet and profit and loss for that time period is. But you can also, if you want to, provide a copy of your most recent your not-for-profit tax return. So we're not asking for audited at all, but a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement would be great. And also for those accounts, we will have no way of knowing, but it would probably be great if you could have your books reconciled as well for whatever period that you are providing that. Now, we'll have no way of tracking that, but just a balance sheet and a profit and loss of your using a program doing your bookkeeping. So
thank you so much, Reggie, for clarifying that and expounding on that. The next question: does equipment for services related to food insecurity qualify for funds? Refrigerators, boy, a lot of y'all need refrigerators. Refrigerators, storage containers, shelving, yes, all of that qualifies for administrative support for hunger relief programs. And then another question about the audit. I hope Reggie just answered that. If you don't have an audit completed, that's okay. It does not qualify you for submission. That's fine. Will we make the slides available? Yes, they actually are already available on our website on that alliancegpgo.org/ARPA. And then it says will help as a checklist. Oh, what a great idea. Yeah, using it as a checklist to make sure that you have your data points secured. We will also be providing a copy of the rubric that our grant review committee will actually be looking through as they are going to be scoring your proposal. So definitely you can use the application, you can use the rubric, you can use these slides. Just try to hit every point in the question. That's the best advice that I have for you. There's nothing that we ask because we just want to be asking it. We're asking it because it's either required of us to collect that information. It's going to be helpful for our grant reviewers to score you all adequately and be able to make proper assessments about projects that should be funded. So even if you don't have an answer, you know, try your best in answering and hitting all the points in those different prompts. Don't just make something up, but like make it make sense and fill it out. Okay, another question. Do we need pay stubs and proof of health insurance payments for navigation projects that cover staffing costs? Reggie's going to get into that with you all on the 30th. You will need to support that if you are covering staffing costs. And when we get to the 30th, Reggie will break down exactly how you're going to need to provide that and how you'll need to cover that within your bookkeeping and accounting. Okay, all righty, let's see. Bonnie and Reggie, someone says you did a super job and they just love you to pieces. You guys have fans all the time. I just love it so much. Okay. They just love you. Will these slides be emailed as well as posted on the website? Yes, if you all registered for this training, we have your email address. We're adding you to our notice of fund availability and our RFP mailing list, and we have other future funding announcements. You get to be on that mailing list as well as receiving these slides and the link to apply and the link to all of these resources. Is there a link to a PDF of the application? Not yet. There will be on Friday morning. Let's see. This is someone who has a further question about the exclusivity of Prince William County residents. It says, we're located outside of Prince William County. They're headquartered in Alexandria. They have a physical and mental health project that is exclusive to Prince William County residents. Great, but it also serves the entire DMV. Interesting. Okay, so can you please expound on the issue of project exclusivity? Sure. The issue of why it has to be exclusive is because all of the different municipalities throughout the state, throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, have their own pots of ARPA money in terms of reporting and tracking and showing which groups have been able to spend their allocations versus which ones have not, which counties, which cities have done so. We have to have very clear lines of delineation as it pertains to who is spending what money where. And so when we say you can only spend this for Prince William County residents, it's because if you take money that maybe the city of Alexandria had and you pour it into the residents here, it's harder for us to track if the outcomes came from our programs and the interventions that our grant partners did, or if it came from Alexandria. And likewise, the city of Alexandria may not have given you all money to be spending for Prince William County residents. So if you have a grant program that says you can serve the whole state or you can serve your whole service area, and that includes Prince William County residents, awesome. The more resources, the better. I'm sure that the residents of Prince William County would appreciate that. However, that is not a two-way street because in Prince William County, we only want you to spend that money for Prince William County residents. So I hope that kind of helps to explain that a little bit further. We're not trying to be meanies. It's just that Fairfax has their own money, Manassas Park has their own money, everybody, Loudoun has their own money. And we just have to make sure that what we're investing in is to benefit the citizens here in our service area. And in this case, that is just going to be Prince William County. Someone asked about returning excess funds. It says, is there an option to request additional funds during the project? For example, a partner organization underestimates funds needed for advertising materials and needs additional funds to cover those costs in the middle of the project. So here's the deal with requesting additional funds. First of all, you have to spend the money that we are giving you, and you have to show that you are executing your project as projected. And what we will do is, as you start to wind down on the money that you have and expend all of the funds from your own grant award, we will keep in mind if you have additional needs, so that if another grant partner underspends, we can reallocate that within your funding round. It's not guaranteed. We can't promise it because we don't know if another group is going to underspend or by how much, but we will just keep a running list. It's one of the reasons why we say, don't wait to spend your grant award. When you get it, start trying to implement your project as soon as you can, because if you're like, oh, I have all the way until August of 2024. No, you don't. You really don't. Because as you find that you're not spending it, we're going to say, okay, what's going on? Why are you not spending it? In your project plan, we ask you to really come up with a way that you're going to do your service delivery. And that includes having a timeline for how much you think you're going to spend and when. And if we're a year out and you have had no movement, we're going to say, all right, we're probably just going to have to amend this grant award a little bit. And then if we have to amend that grant award because it looks like you may not be able to spend your money, then we can reallocate that money and redistribute it within our existing grant partners. For that second round of funding that we have, if we have a whole bunch of money left over, which like I said, I don't foresee happening, but if we have a lot of money left over in 2023, when we go to do that RFP period, we'll just make more than $3.3 million worth of grants. But so in terms of how someone can request additional funding beyond whatever the maximum was of their grant award, you demonstrate that you can spend it. We'll keep that in mind. And when we have excess funds, we'll reach out to you to see if you still need it. All right, another question.
Can I add something to that?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so I think this grant period, even for people who were used to when we did the CARES grant period, that grant period was basically only 5 months, 4 or 5 months. So essentially, even money that might be made available, it is probably going to be even after the second grant period before we start tapping the shoulders of people and saying, hey, like if we do have more money. So what I would say definitely not to do is I would not, do not spend your operational money thinking that more money's going to be coming likely. So it's more, we hope we can, we want to get all, if we can, we definitely would love to. But I just want to go ahead and say that I would not make a plan to spend over what your grant award is until you have been formally approved of that. And I would not make a budget of that with your organization banking that's going to happen. If it happens, great. But there's going to be a lot longer of a time of a grant period. So it's not going to happen quickly. So just if people were used to the CARES Act, I just wanted to make sure that they knew that it is going to be different in terms of if you spend your money and you need more funding, it's going to take longer.
That's a really good point too. So patience, patience. Right. Well, here's another question about general operating funds. Can we write for general operating funds for a program, or must it be for pass-through funds that will directly go to clients? I'm going to answer that question first, then I will read the rest of your question. So nothing goes directly to your clients in terms of funding. All payments that you make have to go on their behalf directly to a third-party vendor. So an example of that would be if you are going to help someone, like Bonnie's example with the boots, you're not going to sit in front of your clients and then give them $300 cash or check or Venmo for boots. You're going to go to the store and buy the boots. You're going to order the boots from Amazon directly. The money never gets passed to them. And in terms of, can you write for general operating funds for a program? Is your program exclusively focused on COVID-19 recovery in the service categories that we specified? If not, then no. If yes, then yes, you can. You can write for that, but they're not general operating funds. They are to execute the project that you proposed. So you can't just have a program that's doing COVID-19 recovery if it's unrelated to the specific project and services that you said that you would administer with these ARPA funds. And then the example given is, for instance, if we ask for $100,000, must it all be granted out to direct rental assistance for our program participants or making food purchases? Or can we use 50 of that for direct assistance and 20 for supplies for the program, and maybe like 30 for staffing for the program? So with that, I want to remind you all, ARPA funds are not to be used for direct rental assistance. They are to be used for rental navigation support. So the difference with that is with direct rental assistance, it would have been a case manager, an intake processor, a housing counselor writing a check to a property manager or to a landlord or to the mortgage company saying, oh, I know so-and-so is behind on their rent, or I know so-and-so is in threat of being behind on their rent, or maybe so-and-so is in eviction status. Let me bring them current. Let me get them out of arrears. Here's a check. We are not doing that with ARPA because there is so much money floating around the county and the state and different housing assistance programs, even around the country, that we feel it is going to be a better use of your time and resources to be able to just sit down with your program participant and help them to complete an application for that funding that can provide a longer term intervention. So there are programs that can pay 12 to 18 months of assistance and also utilities. And so if you have a grant award that's $50,000, by the time you guys cover your admin for it, you're not going to have that much to pay out to help the families that you serve. And so what we're saying is it's better for you to help them tap into those resources that are more robust and can do more to help them than you paying direct assistance. So that's one thing, no direct rental assistance. In terms of food purchases, no food purchases with ARPA money. You can purchase items that will help you to administer the program. You can hire staff that will help you to administer your hunger relief program, but no food purchases. I think the question ultimately is getting at the slide. There's a slide in here where we address the question of how you can spend your money. And so I'm going to go and click back to that slide, which was way up here in Bonnie's part. But it really does kind of show how you can break that down. It's this one. So just a reminder, if you have a direct service project, now we said direct service being anything but rent and mortgage. If you have a direct service project, maybe you directly will be providing, I don't know, mental health counseling or directly providing childcare or something like that. And it's already in existence. You already have this program operating in Prince William County. You can use up to 10% to cover your admin costs. If you are setting up a new project and you're going to have to bring on a new staff person that is only going to be responsible at your organization for working to address this project, you can use 100% of the costs for that staff person. Okay. And then the question is, can you write for general operating and one will be favored over the other? It doesn't matter to us which one you write for, if you need 100% or if you need just money to do your actual delivery of services and you're just going to use 10% for admin. It doesn't matter to us at all, but just think about what your budgeting needs are. And like we said, if you're not showing that you can spend that money as you projected to spend it in the time that you've projected to spend it, we will have to take it back. So I know something that can be exciting is to think, oh my gosh, we're gonna have so much money to hire people and to do this and to do that. And when the rubber meets the road, if you can't quite do it as you projected it, we will have to reclaim those dollars. Now we're about 3 minutes out from 3:30. We're going to go through and answer as many of these questions as we can. If you have to log off at 3:30, please remember that this is being recorded. So if you just go ahead and submit your question into the chat, we'll still cover it during our time together. And anyone who has to leave the call, we will record this information session and post it to the website and also send you all a link where you can view it on our YouTube channel. Okay, next question. Can dollars generate?
One thing I wanted to piggyback what you said, Chelsea, is that do hire somebody, she might have already said this, but I want to make sure it's clear because Bonnie said this earlier. But if you do hire somebody who's getting 100, like that you can pay 100% of their cost to, that's like, even when we're talking about navigation to rent, like if your organization is going to hire somebody that the only thing they're going to do is help people get these applications done to other sources, then that's fine. But if you do that, they can do no other thing other than that. So it can be that they do that, and then for 10 hours, they do other things that your organization. So if it's 100%, that person has to be 100% about doing that one job. So Bonnie said that earlier, that just wanted to reiterate that. But great job.
No, that's a really great point, Reggie. And I think it's probably going to help you all to think of getting this 100% designated person. You would not need a reason to hire them outside of what your ARPA project is. If you think about it in terms of that, well, then of course you're going to use your ARPA money to help fund their salary or to fund their salary because you wouldn't need them otherwise. For something like with this 10%, that might be a case where you've already got existing staff, you already have volunteers that are able to do your work, but maybe you have hours that are going to have to be used to report, or that are going to have to be used to do the bookkeeping for it, or that, you know, you might have to cover overtime for them to serve your new ARPA program participants, because those specific things are directly related to how you execute your project. So if you think about it like that, someone who could use only 10% of their time to work on the project versus someone who would need to use 100%. That might help you too to think about what you write for and what you don't. All right, another question. Can dollars cover existing programming for income eligible Prince William County residents, or only new or expanded programming for income eligible Prince William County residents? If your existing programming is related to COVID-19 recovery, it can cover something that is existing or something that is new. Okay, another question. If we have a federally negotiated indirect cost rate, may we charge that rate to our program direct cost versus 10% admin rate? Treasury guidance allows for agencies to charge their federally negotiated indirect cost rates. And does the first round of funding, oh, that's a different question. So the guidance we have gotten from the county is they just want it to be a flat 10%, where you can use up to 10%. If you have another rate, I hope that you will be able to message us about it, and we can see maybe if we can get some more guidance on that from the county, but the county has put it at a flat 10% rate for admin. And the county can put additional guidelines atop of what the federal says, which was the case even with us being able to use the money for like rent navigation versus direct assistance. So we get our money from the county, so we do what they tell us to do. Okay, another question is, does the first round of funding need to be fully expended for an agency to request funding for round two? It does if the project is going to just be a continuation of that first year's project. So let's say you're saying that you're going to do childcare in year one, and you run through all your money, you expend all of your money as planned, and by this time next year, you're like, okay, we ran through all of our money, we've used up all of our money, we've done everything that we said we can do, we would like to go ahead and request more money. Then yes, you can submit another project in 2023 to do childcare again, and that would be perfectly fine. You cannot submit another proposal in 2023 if you haven't put a dent in the money that you got in 2022.
Yes, and all reporting, it would definitely help, but all reporting also needs to be turned in for the money that you've spent for on the first round of funding.
Indeed. So you have to, and that's why we do ask for that monthly reporting. Okay, and another question that asks the same thing. Can coaching, mentoring, and training provided to entrepreneurs be counted as employment support? If you can relate it to COVID-19 recovery, employment support for COVID-19 recovery. If you can relate it to that, then yeah, shoot your shot. All right, how often do we need to determine income eligibility if you're working with a client on a continuous basis? It's a great question. At the time of intake. So we do what their income was 30 days to when they come to apply. So should our program budget be for April 22 through August 2024? If you are going to write your project for a time period where you think that it's going to take you that long to spend it, if you really think you're only going to need a year and that you could be done by 2023, that's fine. If your program budget could be done in the next couple of months, that's fine. It really just depends on your project and what it is that you're hoping to do. Okay, let's see what else. What other goodies are in these questions? You guys have a lot of really great questions. Okay. Will the funding usage and focus areas for this grant remain the same for the second round of funding? What an awesome question. So the reason why we actually have two funding rounds instead of just one, instead of just us pushing out the whole $10 million this go round, is because we are not 1,000% sure that the unmet needs our community has around recovery are going to be the same next year. This time next year, you know, it could be something, I don't know. I don't even want to think about what we might be dealing with this time next year. But even just think about how drastically the world changes from 2020 to 2021, 2021 to 2022. We don't know what it's going to look like. Most likely the funding areas are not going to change drastically. But if we have an update from the federal government, we'll be able to let you know if there's any guidance that they put out about changes that might be made in terms of how the funding can be used. And likewise, we might find that the service areas that we've identified as the county are maybe, you know, in need of some updating. And if that's the case, we will make sure to let you all know that when we do the RFP, when we start doing our information sessions for the next funding round. Okay, here's another question. Our organization is in one of the zip codes that is designated as having high food insecurity. After food giveaways, we will have to report on the zip codes of the food. Oh, it's a question. After food giveaways, will we have to report on the zip codes of the food recipients? Or is it assumed that since we are serving our local community, the food recipients are exempt from proving that they meet income requirements? Great question. So if you are serving in one of those zip codes that were identified on the map that Bonnie showed you, you do not have to collect any information whatsoever on the people that you give that food to. You don't have to collect their income eligibility, and you don't have to collect what emergency they might have had since the pandemic started, whether it was a loss of income or a reduction or whatever. It's just assumed that because those were areas where there was extremely high poverty and food insecurity, that they've had some mitigating issues since the pandemic started. You don't have to collect any of that. What you do need to be able to report to us when you do your monthly report is to say, I distributed foods in zip code, whatever it was that was qualifying for you not to have to collect that information. Now, when we say that there are certain zip codes where you don't have to collect that information, there are specific zip codes listed on the slide that Bonnie showed you. If you go and you distribute your food in the neighboring zip code that is not on that map, you still have to collect household income eligibility information. You have to collect what the circumstances were that caused somebody to have to come to you all for help and all of that other good stuff. You still have to do that if you are outside of those designated zip codes. Those are the only zip codes where you get a pass in terms of what you have to report. Next question. Okay, as I understand it, the grant money cannot cover food. Providing food is a major part of this program. You mentioned other options. What are they? So we received $10 million from Prince William County government, and the Community Feeding Task Force received $2.5 million. The Community Feeding Task Force is doing more in terms of helping with purchasing and other things. And so we always want to refer you all to our friends over there who can help you to really organize what it is you might need to purchase in terms of actually accessing food. With us, our funds are used for the administrative side. So that's kind of how it's broken down. I hope it's not too confusing. They're a wonderful group. They do wonderful work. Also, Capital Area Food Bank might be able to assist you. There are just some other options, but as it pertains to purchasing food, distributing the actual food, trying to organize what needs are outstanding, which ones are being met and how. We always refer people to those wonderful food experts. Okay, another question. If I need to, whoa, it just jumped on me. Hold on. It jumped a lot. Okay, let me come back up here. Alrighty. I wasn't even touching it or anything, guys. Okay, if I need to hire someone to assist with this grant award, can I also allocate the 10% of operations as well? If you need to hire someone to assist with this grant award, you can, depending on what it is that you're going to be doing and what it is that they're going to be doing and how you write it into your project budget, your program costs, you can have that person and cover the entire cost of their salary as well as whatever the cost of their admin is if you're setting up a new project, a new program. If you have an existing, it doesn't really say, but if you have an existing project and you maybe just need someone to cover for a couple hours here or there, or to help you to distribute something or do data entry or something like that, then that's where you will have them and you're able to pay them within your 10% cap of your overall grant award. Okay. All righty. Thanks for answering my question. You're super welcome. Okay, we want to answer all your questions because you have great ones and we need you to know for when you write your proposals. Okay, regarding food giveaway programs, can you expound on how food funds can be used to relieve food insecurity since they cannot be used to purchase food? Okay, I think we've covered that. I think we've covered that sufficiently. Yeah, so we're doing admin, community resource, community feeding task force is covering other aspects of food. You guys, I've gone through all of the questions I had. I know Reggie and Bonnie, you guys probably have some too. So what questions do you all have?
I directed them to yours.
Oh, cool.
Let me see if I have any new ones. Let's see. Will the presentation be made available? Yes, they will. We are definitely making those available. Yeah, she has asked all those to you. How do we determine yeah, every question I have is one that was asked to you.
Sweet. Bonnie, what about you? Oh, I'm sorry, Reggie, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, and I know that one of the questions that has, and I think this is going to be important for March 30th, because one of the questions that has been asked a lot is about staffing and bringing on a staff to cover a program. So we will be going over all of that on March 30th, but the way to really think about it as you are applying is that if it is basically for basic admin or if it's bookkeeping or reporting, just the extra work that you have to do in order to get information to us, then that's where the percent comes in. If you have to hire somebody in order to do basically the rental assistance, helping people, not paying for people's rent, but helping people navigate to where they can go to do that. And a couple other areas, you can basically pay for that person, like as a part of the program has to be, our program is going to be that we are going to hire this person who is going to do nothing but help everybody come in and do these applications. They're going to do that full time. Then you can do that. If it is a program cost on childcare and y'all hire another teacher, basically that's going to be built in to the amount, like if you're giving free childcare out, that's going to be built into how much childcare costs. So it's not, even in those situations, it's not technically that you're going to, okay, I'm a preschool, I hired a new employee. This is my employee here. That's it. That's not it. You have to build that into what your program costs. So you can basically, as that's an operational cost, and we'll go over this a lot on the 30th, you can build that into an operational cost and then say, this is how much my program costs per child for a child to attend our preschool. That's what you send us if it's if the child's eligible for the money. So we are going to go over that, but I just wanted to clarify that even if you're doing, like, if it's even mental health awareness in your therapy office, you can't just hire a therapist and then basically just send us the salary of that person. You have to directly tie it into the people that you are serving with that. And it's going to be a great presentation. We're going to go over that in depth on the 30th, but I wanted to make sure as you're filling out applications that you do have that reasonable expectation that that person that you hire on, it's not as simple as just sending us their salary range.
That's such a really great point. And I'm so glad that you clarified that further. Because yeah, you have to be able to break it down, break it down, break it down. And then what is it per person that you're going to be serving? So now, Bonnie, do you have any questions that were directed to you?
The ones that were directed to me were also ones that you answered. So we're good.
Cool
Awesome.
beans. Well, then you guys, we are done.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, it was false
I just
alarm. We're
got
not
one.
done.
Just got one, not done. Whoops. It popped off my screen. Hold on. It's got a mind of its own.
I understand.
Okay. I understand food cannot be purchased with the funds. This leaves administration costs. Would we still be, oh, maybe this is the one you just answered. Would we still be limited to 10% of our funding request to be allocated to administration costs, supplies and equipment? Unless you have hired that person to 100%. So, let me read it again.
I think I understand what this one is asking.
Okay.
This one is saying that, we can't use food. Are we still limited to using 10% of our awarded money for admin costs? And I want to be sure to clarify that with hunger relief projects, we're only doing admin costs.
Right.
So because we're only doing admin costs, you can't use it for anything but admin costs. So if you say, I'm going to write my grant and I want it to cover staffing and boxes and bags and gas for the truck, and I don't know what it costs. But whatever that is, you put that in your program budget, and that's what we're going to fund, because for you all, you will not have that direct service. You're only going to have the programming costs, the admin side, because we have this partnership with the Community Feeding Task Force where they're going to cover the other aspects of it. I hope that answers that question. Buddy, got any more?
That was it. That was it.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. We so appreciate you all for joining us today, participating in this process. Thank you for your brilliant questions. It's really helped us to think through even what we have to qualify and clarify in the RFP. So when you get it, you might see something that you asked spelled out in that RFP, and it's all because of you guys. You guys rock. Thank you so much. You're the bee's knees. We cannot wait to get your project proposals, and we look forward to working with you all, if not this round and the next round, if not with this project and with another project, because you are the wind beneath our wings, and we just want to be here to support you. And we think you guys are amazing. And we're going to let you go on with the rest of your afternoon now. We will be sending you all this in a recording shortly, probably by the end of the week, when we send you the RFP links and all that other good stuff. If you are, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, you think about a question, please don't hesitate to type us an email at grants@alliancegpw.org. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.